Hi everyone. So today we will discuss about business marketing channels. In fact, in the last class we had discussed about e-commerce and how e-commerce has been very important, and it's playing a very important role in the in the success of so many businesses, right? And it is not only true for B2C companies, it's also true for B2B companies. And in fact, we saw that only in the US market, the kind of B2B businesses through the e-commerce has been around 15 trillion, okay, and which is growing at a very astronomic pace. It's a very fast pace, okay. And the same thing is happening in India today. So in India also the market has been expanding, the e-commerce market has been growing with a very fast pace, right? And then we introduced this we finally introduced ourselves to the concept of supply chain management and how supply chain management has become very important and why it has become a very important task for every company, because without supply chain management it has become nearly difficult, nearly impossible for companies to be successful, right? So one example that we saw was a case of Li and Fung, where they talked about a European garment manufacturer who wanted around some garments. So in order to fulfill that consignment and complete that task, the company had to take help of several companies from across the globe. Like somebody was a zip manufacturer from Japan, somebody was there was a plant in China, then the best service was in production was in Thailand. So all these different kind of support that's you require has been possible due to the development of internet and all these facilities. So because of which now companies are taking the expertise of all other companies across the globe. So today the market has become a global market, and all the businesses are connected to each other, right? If you look at this slide, you will see that there are different companies here which I have placed. For example, Cisco, Walmart, Schneider Electric, Nestle, Lenovo, and Microsoft. Now, all these companies, if you see, you must have heard of them, no doubt about it, right? They are all successful companies, all profit making companies, and very established companies. Now, the question is, what is the common thing in these companies? They are all top supply chain management companies. In fact, not supply chain management companies, these companies have the best supply chain management systems in that, right? So we can understand that if somebody has to be successful in today's world, one has to understand how to optimize its supply chain management systems. That means, how do you connect each other so that there is no wastage of time, there is you are agile to the market, you are fast to the market, and you can maximize your profits because you can cut down your cost by maybe getting products from the lowest cost producers, utilizing the best services, the best production facilities. So and cutting down your unnecessary time through maybe in ordering or handling of goods or all these things. So these things makes a company successful, right? And these companies which I have given here example, they are all the best in the market, right? Now, supply chain management, no doubt, has become a very important topic for all companies today. Without a good supply chain management system, no company can be ever successful, right? What is this exactly? Let's see. Supply chain management encompasses or includes the planning and management of all activities involved in sourcing and procurement, conversion, that means production and operation, and all logistic management activities. Importantly, it also includes coordination and collaboration with channel partners, which can be suppliers, intermediaries, third party service providers, and the customers. In essence, supply chain management integrates supply and demand management within and across companies, right? So one can see that the role of supply chain management is very critical, right? It not only talks about the planning and management, but it also talks about procurement, operation, and finally making the product reach the customer, right? So it is much beyond than what people think. It's not only logistics, it's much beyond that, right? Supply chain management is the holistic part of the game or the holistic part of the story. So, it is complete in nature. So, if a company has to be successful, it has to optimize at all levels, and that is where supply chain management comes into play. Now, let us look at this small diagram. Now, there are different suppliers, there are different manufacturers, distributors, retailers and the customers, right. So, the customer could be traditionally a customer who goes to the store, or somebody who is purchasing on the internet. So, whatever, right. So, when you are connecting and you can see these arrows given to you. So, that can be a crisscross. Any supplier can buy from any manufacturer, or any manufacturer can be connected to any distributor. Similarly, the same thing happens. So, what supply chain management is doing basically, it is trying to create a number of options, right, different combinations that is possible, and each combination is the most optimized combination. That means, if you look at any possible combination, that combination would be the one which is giving you benefits, the highest benefits, right. Now, supply chain management, as we have seen, is a design and management of those processes, right, across the organizational boundaries with the goal of matching supply and demand in the most cost effective way. Now, if I show this, now there is a supply, there is a demand, right. On one side there is supply and there is one side demand. So, the supply and demand should match. Now, if a company is producing, right, and there are a lot of people involved in this supply system. So, whatever they are producing, whatever they are supplying, there has to be a demand in the market, that has to always match. If supply and demand are same, that means whatever you are producing, the market is consuming. So, there is no wastage of products, there is no issue at all. It is like a dream come true. It is a fantastic situation, but the question is it really possible that you can match supply and demand? Mission impossible. Matching supply and demand, it is almost an impossible, it is impossible task, right. But then if it is impossible, does it mean that we will not attempt it? No, we will attempt it. We will try to minimize this gap between supply and demand. Okay. So, supply should be as close to demand, right. If supply is more, demand is less, you will have overstock, you will have inventory at your store. If supply is less, demand is more, then there will be stock outs, the product will be over. So, there will be more demand, right. So, the best part of the story is supply should be close to demand. So, there should be minimum inventory or minimum stock out case. Okay. So, why is it so difficult to match supply and demand? I said it is impossible. Why is it so difficult or impossible? First of all, you see there are several players in the market. So, for a same good, for a computer for example, how many computer manufacturers are there? Now, for each part, how many suppliers are there, right? So, for each component inside the computer, there are, let us say, 10 components, just example 10 components. For each component, there might be 10 or 20 players, right, and much more than that, and they are globally scattered across in different markets. So, how do you match, and then who is going to be the buyer? And now, if the buyer is buying, is he buying only this kind of a computer, or he is buying something else which can be a substitute product? Now, all these things make supply and demand very difficult to match. So, the first thing is uncertainty in the demand and supply. So, we do not know what will happen tomorrow, right. So, whether the product will be in demand, or there will be no demand in the market, or a new technology might emerge. Changing customer requirements are changing with time. So, the same customer who was dying for a product, who was demanding a product, now is not interested, just because his demand has changed, his requirement has changed. He says, I do not need it anymore. The product life cycles have decreased, that means it has shortened. So, earlier for example, if one product was selling for at least 1 year, now the entire product life cycle from introduction, growth, maturity and decline is happening within 3 months to 4 months. And if you look at industries like fashion industry and all, the product life cycle has even shortened to maybe a fortnight or a month. So, it is very difficult in such a short span of time to understand, collect the data, understand the requirement of the customer and then match the demand accordingly. Fragmentation of supply chain ownership. Now, as I had said, there are different members in the supply chain, right? The distributors, wholesalers, suppliers, manufacturers, all these people are, they are different, and right. So there is a fragmentation of the supply chain ownership. So all these people have to be somewhere connected. Only then, you can understand and you can have a smooth flow. Conflicting objectives in the supply chain. Now, for someone, for example, let us say in the supply chain, for someone maybe the sales is more important, for someone, for another, the quality of the good is more important. Now, when such kind of conflicting objectives will be there, automatically, there will be some kind of a resistance, some kind of a slowness in the entire process, because people will be having friction, or the objectives of the companies or the objectives of the players will be coming as a hindrance in the smooth flow, right. So, it is all these things, makes, very difficult to match the supply and demand. And if you can see here, marketing sales wants more, finished good inventory, fast delivery, many, package types, special wishes, promotions, the marketing team wants. Production says bigger batch size, reports at the factory, latest ship date, decrease changeovers, stable production plan, no playing, do not tamper with it. The distribution says full truckload, right, low cost at the depot, low distribution costs, small SKUs, right. Now, stable distribution plan, now SKUs are stock keeping units, right. So, everybody has different objectives, and some of these objectives may conflict with each other, right. So, that makes life very tough. So, difficult, it becomes extremely tough to match supply and demand. But we can't let it go like that, right. We cannot say that if it is impossible we will leave it. So, we will have to find out a way, if not 100, if not 100%, at least we should be able to reach somewhere close to that. So, 80%, 90% efficiency, whatever it is, so that the gap is narrowed. Now, to narrow this gap, you need to understand that there are, what are the supply chain drivers. So, the supply chain drivers, there are 5 basically. So, what are the 5 set drivers? So, supply chain drivers means, we mean to say anything that drives the supply chain, or that plays a very vital role in the success or failure of the supply chain. So, the first one we start is production, then we have inventory, then transportation, location, and finally information. Okay. So, this is not like in a hierarchy, it can be any number, you can write whatever comes to your mind first. So, production is what, how and when to produce. So, what do you want to produce, how do you want to produce, and when do you want to produce? Does it have some seasonal effect, non-seasonal effect, does it, what is the design that you want? Then you talk about inventory, how much to make and how much to store. So, do you want to make too many, and so that the cost of economy is less, the cost of production is less, and then you want to store it, or you just want to make it as and when the customer demands, like Dell does, right. Similarly, the third point is transportation, how much and when to move the product. Now, you have made the product, you have kept it in your warehouse or storage. After that, there is an order coming to you, so you want to move the product. Now, how much should you move the product and when to move the product? The next point is the location, where best to do the activity. Now, as you saw in that Leon Fung case, so they got the products, the components from different places, but they produced it in Thailand. So, they felt Thailand is the best place to produce. So, the people had that knack of doing things, of making garments. So, Thailand they found to be the best location to do that. India has become one of the best hubs for textile and other products. Similarly, you have some places like, for example, Philippines, Mexico, you have even China, a manufacturing hub. So, all these are different locations where the companies are finding it cost effective to manufacture it, right. And finally, is the information. So, the basis for making these decisions, coordinating the activities and forecasting and planning depends on the kind of information you have. Now, any one of it, if it doesn't, you do not do it well, like the production is inefficient, or let us say the inventory management is inefficient, or the transportation system is inefficient, the location, where do you want to produce, right, or make the activity is inefficient, or let us say the information that you want is not there in your hand and you are slow, then all this, any of this can create a disruption, can create a problem, can create an issue for you, for the company, in their operational conditions and their overall profitability. So, it says the right combination of responsiveness and efficiency in each of these drivers allows a supply chain to increase throughput while simultaneously reducing inventory and operating expense. So, the supply chain, the objective is to always minimize the cost and maximize your speed and maximize your profitability. So, the best thing is the best combination is very important for any company to understand. What is that best combination? How you can achieve that best combination? So, if you look at it, as the 5 points it says, it starts with production, right. So, this includes the creation of the master production schedule. Now, master production schedule is the complete idea, right, that talks about when to produce, what is the batch size and how many units are required and everything, when to produce and all. That takes into account the plant capacity, what is the plant capacity we have to produce, right. What is the workload balance? So, how many people, what is the number of people in the store, how many people in the production are there and all. So, quality control, equipment maintenance, all these things are part of the are helpful in preparing the master production schedule. The capacity of the supply chain to make and store products in facilities of factories and warehouses. Responsiveness calls for excess capacity to meet fluctuating demands, but excess capacity is idle capacity leading to inefficiency. Now, two words are very important. Now, inefficiency or efficiency and responsive. Responsiveness means how fast can you respond to the customer's demand, right. And if you are, let us say, if you have excess capacity, right, if you have excess capacity or you have the inventory with you, then whenever the demand is there, you can immediately give it to the customer. But the same point now can lead to inefficiency, because if you pile up too much of inventory, that will lead to loss of profitability, right. So, how do you balance this responsiveness and efficiency? So, for too much of responsiveness, if you create lot of buffer stock or lot of stock, that will lead to inefficiency also. So, how do you manage that is an important thing. So, the production team has to work out by looking at the plant capacity, workload balance, the quality control and the maintenance, material handling systems and everything. They should need to look into these points and then try to come out with the best possible solution. Okay. Transportation talks about ship, rail, pipelines, trucks, airplanes, whatever the ways of transportation. The higher the value of a product, the more its transport network should emphasize responsiveness, and lower the value, the more is should be the more emphasis should be on efficiency. So, as I said, responsiveness, efficiency. So, if the value is or the product is a very important product for the customer, so here he does not mind paying you more. So, he is ready to pay you a premium, right. So, for this you need to have stock in hand, right, so that whenever there is a demand you can immediately react to that. But if a product is of low value, right, the customer is not ready to pay you a premium, no premium, right, no premium. So, in that case, if you keep product in stock, automatically it will be creating idle capacity and a loss to the company. In that case, the company should only produce when and when required, when and when required, right. So, when and when required, they should supply to the company, the customer, right. Warehousing approaches, what warehousing approaches can be utilized? Now, SKU storage, now stock keeping units, right. In this traditional approach, all of a given type of product is stored together. So, different types of products are stored together. So, to maintain to reach higher efficiency. So, it is efficient and easy to understand. Similarly, job lot storage, what is that? All the different products related to the needs of a certain type of customer. So, let us say in B2B, one thing is very important you need to understand. You may have very few customers, but these are all big customers. So, maybe a company who is into business, they might have only 2 to 3 customers, or maybe if it is a medium sized company, some 10 to 12 customers, that is all, right. So, what is the need of the customer, right? They need to understand that. This allows for efficient picking and packing operation, but requires more storage space than the SKU storage approach. So SKU storage was trying to keep all the different products, but job lot storage says because the we have to keep according to the needs and of the customer and related to a particular job. So this is more efficient picking and packing, right, than the first one, but the amount of space it requires can be little more. Okay. Third is cross docking, the most efficient. In fact, it was pioneered by Walmart. Now, what it says, Walmart said that the best way is, let us not avoid this issue of warehousing and piling up the inventory. So, what is that? There is an inbound vehicle. So, this vehicle comes and directly unloads the material to the outbound vehicle, right. So, this is inbound, this is outbound. Here the unloading is done directly to the vehicle, and this then goes to the simply the straight the manufacturing system, the part where the manufacturing is happening. So, facility is used to house a process where trucks from suppliers arrive and unload large quantities of different products. These large lots are broken into smaller lots. Smaller lots of different products are recombined according to the needs of the day and quickly loaded into the outbound trucks. So, what is happening here? The objective is to minimize the loading and unloading. So, in cross docking what is happening? Largely if you see, cross docking means that the inbound, here the ship, the truck will come, and either if it is a if the product has to be dismantled into small pieces, that is a different story. So, whatever will be done, the unloading will be done directly onto the outgoing vehicle, right. And this outgoing vehicle, so this product material will broken into different parts, and let us say truck 1, let us say this is vehicle 1, this is vehicle 2. So, one type of material goes into let us say material 1, outgoing vehicle 1, material 2 to outgoing vehicle 2. So, all the materials which are there in this inbound vehicle they are divided or reshuffled, right, and accordingly they are placed to the each truck. So, if truck 1 takes only one kind of product, truck 2 takes only one different kind of product. So, after this what happens, these materials directly go to the manufacturing system or the final destination. The next thing is in the inventory. Now, raw materials, work in process or finished goods held by manufacturers, distributors and retailers in a supply chain is called the inventory, right. So, basically when you talk about inventory, one thing is very important to understand. So, how do you create or how do you hold the inventory, because that is where the cost is, right. It costs a lot to the companies. First is cycle inventory. Now, what is cycle inventory? The amount of inventory needed to satisfy demand for the product in the period between purchase of the product, right, in the period between the purchases of the product. Companies tend to produce and to purchase in large lots for economies of scale. So, if the company wants to buy at a bulk, so that they can negotiate with the supplier and buy at a lower price because of the economies of scale. But the carrying cost and other cost might be more in that case. So, you have saved a lot of money in negotiating by reducing the price, but the carrying cost may be very high. So, trade off is in between reduced cost of ordering and better prices for large lots, which is the carrying cost, or the one is the ordering cost which you have placed and the carrying cost. So, ordering cost might be less because of the large bulk order, but the carrying cost becomes high. So, you have to make a trade off. So, as a trade off, so that your cost is, suppose you see three costs are important: raw material cost, right, then your ordering cost and your holding cost. Now, when you, let us say if you buy in bulk, the raw material cost, maybe you get a discount, right, and the ordering cost also reduces because of the low frequency, but the carrying cost may become high. So, this may offset all the benefits that you have got here, may completely go away here. So, one trade off has to be made. How do you balance that? Safety inventory or buffer inventory is the buffer against such uncertainty, because demand forecasting sometimes can go wrong. In case demand is suddenly greater than anticipated, so then in certain cases you may fall off, you can't understand what is going to happen. So, one needs to understand how much of safety inventory is to be kept, right. So, if it is less, then there will be stockouts. If it is too many, there will be idle. So, how do you manage this safety inventory? Safety inventory, if it is high, your responsiveness will increase, but if it is too much, then sometimes idle capacity will increase, which will reduce inefficiency or reduce efficiency. Okay. The third is seasonal inventory, which talks about, at what time of the year and which time do you require the product more, right. So, all these things, is very important, because the company has to adjust its production facilities in a manner so that the inventory is balanced. There is no extra or too much, or there is not too less. Okay. The next thing is location. Now, how does location play a vital role in the SCM as a driver? Now, geographical setting of the supply chain facilities and decisions related to activities to be performed in each facility. So, you have location, that means the production plants at different places. Now, suppose you have not done it, if the location is is in a place where the raw material is easily available, but for example, maybe the raw material cost has come down, but then the transportation cost could be high because of the far of distance of the let us say of the port, or the customer, to reach the customer, the cost of transportation becomes very high. So, what factors to consider? Cost of facilities, cost of labor, skills available in the workforce at that particular location, infrastructural conditions, taxes and tariffs, proximity to the supplier and the customer. So, all these different points helps one to understand where the company should be locating its plant, right. Where should it be locating its distributors, or its where should the distributors be. So, this can we learn it through transportation, right. So, when we talk about optimization, so we talk about transportation models. So, we have various transportation models. We have different models where we can see, we can say, we can prove that if you locate your plant, or you locate your production facility at a particular place, the cost of production, the cost of transportation would be the minimum, or you can optimize yourself in that, right. The last thing is information, which is the fifth driver of SCM, and it talks about how to have an efficient supply chain. Chopra and Mendel in 2013, they have said information is very important, and information must be accurate, must be accessible, and must be of the right kind, right, and that should be shared. So, without information, a manager cannot know what the customers want, how much inventory is in stock, and how much more to produce, and when more products should be produced or shipped. So, all these things can be easily managed nowadays with the right information systems. So, for example, tracking devices, trying to collect information through vendor managed inventory through an ERP system and all. So, companies can use IT devices, IT systems to capture and analyze the information, right. So, only capturing information is also of no use. So, today you have to also analyze the information and come with some kind of a decision, right. So, all these different points are the various drivers of the supply chain, and if one needs to grow or one needs to do well, one needs to be extremely careful in each of these points, right. And since we are talking about a B2B space, right, we are talking about two B2B companies, right. So, since this ecosystem is between the business to business companies only, so you are not talking about retail customers. It is, if one can optimize, one can efficiently handle this, if they can understand the requirements of each other very well, right. So, they can streamline the processes, they can create a better production facility, manage the inventory well through a proper information system and all these things, right. So, with this we can understand that all these are the 5 drivers, and with these drivers optimally utilized, the supply chain systems can be made very robust and very effective. And today any company, if they want to be successful, it is only and only with this supply chain systems that one can be successful, right. And this especially is true for B2B companies, where the scope of wastages, the scope of failure is very limited. Okay. So, with this I will wind up my today's lecture. Thank you very much, and we will meet in the next class.